Good morning and welcome to another edition of the award-winning second season of Raising the NSBAR. I'm Jeff Lasky, the CEO of this great organization, the North Shore-Barrington Association of Realtors. I hope you are continuing to stay safe and healthy. Every year, NSBAR leadership honors a few of the very best and brightest from our real estate community. I'm joined by two of our most recent award winners today and very much appreciate them spending some time with me this morning. Joel Raynes is NSBAR's Realtor of the Year. A former president of NSBAR, Joel works out of the Baird & Warner office in Glenview. He remains a very active participant in our association, including his continuing work on our Finance Committee and Professional Services Committee, and he is this year's chair of the Past Presidents Advisory Group. I know you're on a couple of Illinois Realtor committees too, which we'll get to in a moment. Good morning, Joel.
Good morning, Jeff.
Travis Wallace is NSBAR's Rookie of the Year. Travis joined the business in March of 2019. He is an associate at Jameson Sotheby's International Realty in Evanston. This gentleman has been making a difference at NSBAR since the day he attended his first new member orientation and promptly volunteered to join our Young Professionals Network. Since then, he served on the YPN Advisory Council and helped out with numerous events. He is determined, supportive, and friendly, and an all-around great guy to have on our team. I'm aware of some great charity work you're doing too, specifically with Evanston Scholars that we'll be talking about shortly. Good morning, Travis.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Obviously, the studio audience is very happy with the naming of Joel and Travis as Realtor of the Year and Rookie of the Year, respectively. Thanks for joining us. First, my weekly icebreaker. What is your favorite restaurant? I'm compiling a list of places to go. What are yours? Joel, let's start with you.
That's really a difficult question to answer because there are so many fabulous restaurants to go to. But I would say my number one go-to restaurant is called Vernon Park Tap or Tufano's. It's in Little Italy near University of Illinois Circle campus. And it's phenomenal. You can go there wearing blue jeans or you can wear a tuxedo. And I've been in both at that place.
Wonderful choice. They still have the chalkboard, right?
They still have the chalkboard. Yes.
All
it's
right,
really
fantastic.
A great place.
All right. Well, I look forward to you taking me there.
Okay. I'll be happy to do that.
Travis, how about you? What's your favorite restaurant?
So my favorite restaurant, so I'm Jamaican, so I love Jamaican food. So there's a restaurant in Evanston called Taste of Jamaica, and it's like a little taste of home. It's pretty quote unquote authentic. So if you ever get a chance, Taste of Jamaica is awesome.
Terrific. Is that downtown Evanston, like right in the heart of things, or?
It's right on the border. So it's on Howard Street. So if you were to cross right over, you'd be in Chicago.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know where that is. I grew up in West Rogers Park, so not far from there. I took the L from Howard a million times. So
nice.
Cool. All right. So I'd like to start off with talking a little bit about how things are going out there right now. So Joel, I'm going to ask you about how business is right now. I've been hearing that things have softened since the beginning of September a bit, but others are still staying busy. So what's your impression?
So I would say things have softened too a little bit. I think that the market itself, I posted recently that the beginning of September, fall was the new spring, and it correlates very simply that in the spring market, beginning March, April were relatively slow and we build up. And in September, as soon as we were really busy in April, May, June, well, it's end of April, May, June, July, August. September, things started to slow down, but now I'm seeing it start to move again. Now, I believe it's going to be busy from now till Election Day, and then we're going to be in a lull, and then we're going to see what happens, and then we're going to be busy again.
Okay. And Travis, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'd echo that. The market's still pretty active out there. I do think that this month is going to be kind of a transitional month. Just people, they're not sure where the market's going to be with the election, with COVID, and then the weather's also getting colder. So we're seeing, buyers kind of huddle in a little more, and people kind of pushing off for a little bit. But again, it's still active, but I'm kind of curious to see what November brings.
Oh yeah, I think we all are in a number of ways. But
yeah.
All right, I'm going to stick with Travis for a second because I know our audience is interested in the background that both of you have before you got into real estate. So let's start there, Travis, and ask what you did before you got into the real estate industry.
Yeah, so before real estate, I was fresh out of college. So I worked in the recruiting field as a quantitative analytics recruiter. So we focused on, data science, credit analytics, market research. And we were really there's a small company called Birchworks in Evanston, and they're really the leaders in that space. It was a really good job out of college, and, I learned a lot of things on the customer service side, systematic skills to kind of keep your database managed, how to outreach, potential business. And, I learned a little bit and a lot from that. But really, I didn't want to be in a quote unquote corporate environment. I didn't want to be in the office 8 hours a day. So, a couple of weeks in, I reached out to a connection, and I sat down with a wonderful woman who is now my team lead, Jackie Mack. And we, just talked about, we had a really fruitful conversation. And we talked about, the day-to-day, real estate business, what that looks like for a broker, pros and cons. And, from there, a couple of weeks later, she reached out and said, hey, join my team, be my show and agent as you kind of dip your toes in the water for a little bit. And I couldn't do anything, legally, but just, open up the doors and, stand there. But I was really, kind of doing the back end things of how to really prep a home for a showing, learning on the fly. And then from there, I got my license, and the rest is history.
Yeah, boy, if you wanted to get out of the corporate thing, right, you probably went about as far away from it as you could, right? But
yeah, exactly.
It's obviously working great for you. How about you, Joel? What was your background before you got into residential real estate?
So I have a long background. I have a few jobs to talk about. My first job right out of college I was a guidance counselor. I dealt with mental health patients and trying to get them services. And from that, I dealt with tons of red tape. And that was something that I didn't want to do in my next career. So I went to something that had less red tape, and I went into banking. And that's all I dealt with was red tape. But I dealt with clients, and I was a banker for 30 plus years. And I got downsized in 2008. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Ultimately, I had to sell my mom's condo, and I didn't want to do it. And I gave it to a friend who was a realtor. But I was that really involved seller. I needed to sell it. I needed to get through with this. And ultimately, the deal started to go sideways. I ended up dealing with it. And after the transaction was complete, my friend said, why don't you go into real estate? And I'm like, I don't want to do this. This was like really hard work for me. But nonetheless, I ended up taking the classes and am extremely happy that I did it. I love what I do. I think it's a great industry.
What's I say not just funny, really, but gratifying to hear is like, here's two award winners of ours that have come from completely different experiences, right, before you got to real estate. And it's worked for both of you. And I think we run into that all the time. Through the association, I meet people all the time, and I'm like, how did you get to real estate? And it's kind of interesting. There's no one set way of doing that. But I will tell you guys what I'm relentlessly asked. I'm asked this all the time, for obvious reasons, is what is the key to success in real estate? And I know that there's no one key, I suppose. Not everybody knows exactly the right answer for everybody. But Joel, I'm going to start with you and ask you, what do you think is the most important reason or reasons that you're successful?
So I come from a background where it was very important for me to build relationships in banking. And in real estate, it's the same thing. Everything I do is relational. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I think is really important is to realize it's not about me, it's about everybody else, and not have that ego that I'm the one that is the one putting together this thing, because I'm not. I'm working with lots of different people all the time, lenders, inspectors, etc., trying to figure out the best way to solve the attorneys, best way to solve this. So I would say those are the most two important things. I would think that for me, I love building relationships, and it's really not about me. It's about everybody else.
Interesting. Yeah. Travis, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with Joel. It really is a relationship business, and building that from the ground up and establishing that trust, and really making sure that you're giving your best hand and get best foot towards the client themselves. But for me, I think really, a lot of people can work in the business of real estate. And I think one of the key things a broker should do for themselves is work on their business. And I think with Jameson Sotheby's and my team and Jackie Mack, they really put a, emphasis on having a plan. So having a plan and really just being consistent with that plan. And in regards to your plan, making sure that there's specific, very, very narrow lines as to like what you want to do, and making sure that, what you're doing is actually productive. So you can end up, being successful and build a successful brokerage business. I really credit Jameson and Jackie Mack for kind of, establishing that for agents, and again, making a plan and, having specific things to include in order to be successful.
All right. Well, and then part of that plan apparently was to become involved in NSBAR. And so I'm curious why you decided to become involved in the association.
Yeah. So for me, I was, brand new. I was, fresh in the business, and all I had was time. All I had was time to learn. So, as much as I, could do with training from Jameson, from NSBAR, I just thought, being on the committee would be awesome to kind of see the back end of everything and being able to, connect with the realtor community. I spoke with Brady Anderson. He was the gentleman that came into my new member orientation class and, pitched the idea. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. I've been the guy my entire life, through schools and, sports, to be on, quote unquote, the committee. So I really do like that leadership aspect of it. And again, giving back to the community, local organizations really attracted to me. And also just being able to network with people who've been in the business. Again, I'm new, so as much ideas and pros I can get, that was kind of my selfish thing for joining the committee. I wanted to really network with other agents and, pull and pick and listen and learn.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because when people talk to me about their participating in the association, I make sure that I mention to them that this isn't just doing something for the greater good, that there is a selfish reason, if you want to call it that, but there is a reason for doing it for yourself. It really does help you and your business through the education, through the networking, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. How about you, Joel? Why did you become involved in NSBAR?
I became involved a different way than Travis did. I was a realtor for a while. I was building my business, and people that were involved in NSBAR, one of the past presidents, came up to me and asked me and said, why don't you get involved? And they showed us all the different committees, and I chose a committee that I was interested in, which we don't have anymore, and that is education. I was really involved in education itself. I believe that we go and take our CE because we have to. I go because I want to learn about the different topics. The more information I get, the better person I am, the better realtor I am, the better I am for my customers. So this person asked, and that's how I got involved. From that point, I went up the chairs, as they say. I got asked to be secretary, treasurer, and then president-elect and president, et cetera. And I wouldn't trade any of it for anything, because it's been great for me. And it's all about getting education for me. So,
And I think, again, that's what's critical to me is that people understand, while you certainly want to do something for the industry, pay back the industry for what the industry's done for you, you've both gotten something out of this personally that's benefited your businesses.
oh yes, definitely.
So Joel, I was there when the announcement was made that you were NSBAR's Realtor of the Year. So I'd like you to, first of all, I'll ask you, were you surprised?
I was surprised. I knew I was nominated. And I know that people will say this, that when, people hear, oh, I'm nominated for this and that, and it's an honor to be nominated. I was honored. I didn't really, know or think that I could be Realtor of the Year. I do it because I love it. So it's not like I ever expected anything from it. It was a very surprising and shocking time when it happened. And I'm still a little shocked about it, and people are, congratulating me, and I'm learning to say thank you rather than I don't really deserve it or things like that. But so thank you.
Well, I have to tell you, as the CEO of the organization, when it comes to awards like these, I like to run the other way and stay out of it as much as I possibly can, other than to make sure that the appropriate staff are involved, whatever it is, to get it done. So it was gratifying for me, and I did know before we got there, but it was very gratifying for me, obviously, to hear that you had won that award. I think it was very well deserved.
Thank you very much.
So now, Travis, now I know you were surprised too, Travis, and I know for a fact, because I observed what happened at the beginning of the leadership summit. I think you were trying to leave, and people forced you to stay. Is that correct? Or
yeah, I was very surprised. Like Joel said, you do your job and you work in this business and field because you love it. I had a plan of where I wanted to be in a year or two, but never the idea of being a rookie or Realtor of the Year. That's just not something that was top of my mind. But it was funny. Like, I was walking into the hotel at the before the luncheon, and I believe it's Deborah DeBoer. Hopefully I got her name right. Yeah. And I was walking in, I'm like, because Chris Stevens, my managing broker in Evanston, he said, hey, do you want to come and say the pledge for the award installation? I'm saying, yeah. It's like, why not? I was walking in, I'm like, so what's going on? I've been talking to people, and they don't really know what's going on. I'm like, what's really happening at the event? And Deborah was like, yeah, nothing. We're just here. I just expect good things. I'm like, oh, okay, awesome. Said the pledge, and I had an appointment to meet a buyer at 2:30. It was like 1:45. I'm like, oh, I got to get back to Evanston. So I was grabbing my stuff, and then I was walking out, and Deborah was like, you can't go. And I'm like, I have to go. I have to meet a buyer. And she's like, you have to stay. And I'm like, oh, come on, I have to go. And as we were talking, they were introducing, and then I'm like, oh, is it me? And then she's like, yeah, it was an awesome surprise. So very, very thankful.
Now, that is awesome.
Yeah.
And again, when I heard that you were a Rookie of the Year, again, well deserved. I mean, my goodness, the amount of time that you've spent working with us already is amazing. And in a few minutes, I want to talk to you more about Evanston Scholars, because I'm really a great admirer of the work that you've been doing with them. But and just to give our audience a little background, we had our leadership summit that day, and our leadership summit is where we videotaped a lot of the awards that were announced on September 17th. And so we lured Travis to the event by asking him to do the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the event, and not thinking, of course, well, once he's done with that, he may want to leave and actually do business. So I'm glad we were able to keep you around for a couple of minutes, and that you were able to get that wonderful surprise. So
I'm glad I stayed as well.
Yeah, right. So with both of you doing this involvement, having the involvement that you do. So Joel, I'm gonna ask you, what do you think is the most valuable thing a Realtor Association can do for its members?
So I'm going to tell you, which is my standby answer, is educate. Education is key. Our Realtor Association has many things, like when I've been at conventions representing NSBAR, everyone is amazed that we still have a department that does tech and all that, and that is really important for our members. But as far as I'm concerned, education is probably the number one thing. That, working on the code of ethics, working on the professional development of us as realtors.
Terrific. How about you, Travis? What do you think is the most valuable thing a Realtor Association can do for its members?
I agree completely with Joel. The training and the support that's offered, that's huge. Especially the monthly training that's offered to agents. I'm kind of guilty of it. I know that I don't take full advantage of it, but I've spoken to other agents, and they said that, some of these classes, they really add a competitive edge to their business. And I think that's just something that not a lot of agents take advantage of. And again, I'm guilty of it.
Well, everybody's busy, right? So,
Yeah.
and we've all got a multiple number of different things that we're doing. I've already mentioned it a couple of times, so I'm gonna get to it now, Travis, and ask you to talk to us about your involvement with Evanston Scholars.
Yeah. So Evanston Scholars is a awesome nonprofit that works with first generation or low income high school students to prep them to get into college, and also when they're in college, help them and offer support so that they actually graduate. The reason I joined Evanston Scholars was because I was actually a scholar in high school back in the early days. I think I was a third class. And again, I'm just a huge advocate of giving back to the community and giving back to people who've given to me. So I wanted to, as soon as I graduated college or high school, I made sure when I came back to town, I would visit Evanston Scholars. I would go to events, again, just to kind of show my gratitude, network, and also, again, maybe take away some things that I could use. But it's an awesome, awesome program. They provide, ACT prep to students. They provide, college trips. I don't know how they're doing that right now with COVID, probably not, but they provide interview preparation, how to dress for a job interview, the right questions to ask, making sure that your resume is, one that's going to stand out. And again, the resources they offer to these students and families who are venturing the college application process, the entire process as a whole for the first time, that's huge. Because, even talking to friends who did have parents or brothers and sisters who did go to college before, again, it's still a hard, confusing process. So having a program like Evanston Scholars that's there to support and add knowledge and have some place to, field questions, that's huge.
Yeah, and it is. And our board recently, NSBAR, decided to, on an annual basis, make a donation to Evanston Scholars. And instead of doing a scholarship, it's interesting, as a part of the process, I learned that if we gave money for a scholarship, that it could likely reduce the scholarship money that they would get from their individual institution, kind of cancel it out in a way. And so instead, we're making the donation to the emergency fund.
Yep.
So, which enables basically students that are having whatever difficulties that they're having to be able to go to Evanston Scholars and get help to continue their education.
Yeah.
So I think it was really gratifying. Joel, I know you were sitting there. I know you were really gratified that we decided to do that.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. So now I want to go back to you, Joel, because you mentioned earlier about, going up the chairs and eventually becoming president of NSBAR. You just finished a year as immediate past president, but I know you have also become involved on a couple of committees at Illinois Realtors. And so I'm interested in having you share with our audience your involvement with Illinois Realtors.
Okay, so if I had my way with Illinois Realtors, which I don't, I would serve on their finance committee. That to me is the Grand Poobah committee for me to serve on, because I feel that I can help them. I look at things totally differently than many. My whole world as a banker was involved with numbers as well as building relationships. But so I look at things from a banking point and look at ways to save money. So I serve on the audit committee, so I'm auditing their tax returns at the end. And I also serve on the grievance committee. And the grievance committee basically is someone has had a complaint against them. They appeal the complaint. It goes to our committee to see if they properly identified the right ethical complaint numbers, as well as if we think it should go forward to a hearing.
Mhm.
And it's been wonderful sitting on that because I'm learning about all these mistakes that people are making, that most of them are very self-corrected. But
That's good. But I will tell you, and I'm telling the audience, let's just all keep an eye on Joel, because he's been very dedicated and helpful to Illinois realtors. So I have a feeling we're going to hear a lot more about your participation with them going forward. And I look forward to having a contact there. So, but
well, thank you.
but
But you have contacts there.
yeah, I do. But
I know that.
speaking of contacts, we have the ability at NSBAR, obviously, to speak to every new member when they join the association. So now I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of work for me. And Joel, I'll start with you and ask you, if you were the individual speaking to a new member, what would you say to them to convince them to actively participate in NSBAR?
So I used to do that when I was president. And what I would tell them is, I think that they should give us a chance to participate. I think there is a number of committees out there that may pique their interest. And what I learned from myself about this is, when someone asked me to be on the board, I kept on pushing this person away and saying, I have nothing to give. I haven't been a realtor for a long time. And this person kept on saying, yeah, but you had a career somewhere else, and you're bringing in all this other experience that is beneficial to the organization. And so most of us don't wake up one day and say, oh, I want to be a realtor. We have something else that we do, and that other stuff that we do is great information for us to have and try to get you involved in different committees. So as an example, one of the committees that I'm a liaison on, the Professional Services Committee, I reached out to a colleague and got this person involved. They're a newer realtor, but they had an unbelievable career in insurance, and they were able to help us. So that's what I would do. And basically ask. That's the best way.
I think the ask is real important, right? That's how you got involved with the board, right? In the first place, was somebody asking you.
That's how I got involved with the board. That's how I got involved in RPAC. That's how I got involved in working on committees. Someone asked me, and once they asked me, I felt that was the best way of getting more people involved, is they ask.
Well, Travis, you're proof that you don't have to be doing this for a long time to make a difference, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, if you were talking to somebody and you wanted to convince them to actively participate in NSBAR, what would you say?
Yeah, and I think Joel hit it right on the money. But again, I think, like I said earlier, if you're a new agent, you have time. I don't know personally, but if you have the time, I think it's a great space to kind of join, because you can, again, find your niche, your board, your interests, really give back and, again, learn. I'm a huge advocate for, if someone is, kind of teetering or they're waffling on the idea of joining, again, just say yes. If you feel like you don't know what you're going to do, say yes and figure it out later. I think you never know what you can get out of it. So if you have the time and you want to and you're willing to learn, NSBAR has so much to offer new agents.
Terrific. All right. Well, I've got a couple of finishers for you, because I want to make sure we get out of you guys whatever information we can while I've got you. So what I'm going to ask, and Travis, I'll start with you, and we'll go with, other than the pandemic finally going away, because we know everybody wants that. So other than the pandemic finally going away, what are you looking forward to in 2021?
2020, it's hard because the pandemic is still there. But I mean, it's like,
Yep.
what do you look forward to? I mean, I'm looking to kind of just take 2021 day by day. 2020 has proven that, you never know what to expect. So, I'm going to have a plan to kind of, double my business, continue to stay involved, but also just take it day by day because, you never know what 2021 is going to bring you.
Yeah, that year's certainly proven that. Joel, how about you? What are you looking forward to in
So
2021?
are you looking for an answer professionally or personally? And if you're saying both, I'll give you both. Professionally,
No,
professionally, I'm expecting 2021 to be a busy time in real estate. So I expect it to be a busy market. I expect things to go. Historically, data shows that after a presidential election, the real estate market is fairly busy. So I expect it to be that way. Personally, I would like to be able to travel again. I have a son in Israel, and I would like to go there and see him. That is really, my number one thing that I think about all the time. So, but, you got to take it the chips are there. You got to just take them the way they are. So.
All right. Well, that's really nice sentiment. That's really nice. All right. So let me give you the wrap up. Travis, our NSBAR Rookie of the Year, I'm going to come back to you and just ask you, is there anything that you want to leave our audience with? Anything I've forgotten to ask you about?
Circling back to Evanston Scholars, they're always looking for mentors. So if you ever want to get involved, reach out to me, reach out to Evanston Scholars directly. They're always open to having a conversation to see, how you can help.
Fabulous idea. How about you, Joel? Anything you want to leave our audience with? Anything that I have forgotten to mention?
So I will tell you that besides serving on Illinois Realtors, I also serve on the National Association of Realtors. I'm on one of their committees, the Leading Edge Committee, and that is a committee that is looking at what's happening in the market for the future versus what's going on now. So pretty exciting to be on that. And the only other thing I would tell you is if someone asks you to get involved in whatever it is. NSBAR, Evanston Scholars, we all need your help. So, and we all know you have skills, so that would be wonderful.
This has really been terrific, and I can't thank you enough for joining our podcast today and sharing your wisdom and perspectives. I'd also like to personally thank you for your work with NSBAR. I'm very excited to continue working together on many projects and initiatives in the future. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's a wrap. Please don't forget to keep an eye on NSBAR Communications to stay current on NSBAR happenings. Thank you, Bradley Laberman, for the great job running the board. And thanks to you for tuning in to Raising the NSBAR. I very much appreciate it. Talk to you soon.